My name's Stephan. I'm a pastor at Common Ground Inner City, and I'm proof of God's resurrection power. I grew up in a pretty normal Afrikaans family, born in Pretoria, youngest of 4 boys. I was 12 when God brought me to faith. It was a Saturday morning, and my oldest brother, who was about 22 at the time and had given his life to the Lord recently, invited me to a children's church event. While we were singing songs, I just felt the urge to lift my hands in worship. It was a simple sign of surrender, but God took hold of that, and I had an encounter with Him that day that changed my life forever. For example, in the weeks that followed, I remember going to school and praying for people during break time. I remember getting more involved at a church. So I wish I could say it was smooth sailing from then. But sadly, in my early teen years, I bailed on church. I started drifting away from God. Being the youngest of 4 boys, I had a lot of freedom. And to be honest, I loved doing something wrong and getting away with it. There were plenty of consequences. I remember getting arrested for shoplifting at age 15, and I remember getting beaten up by some guy while trying to steal his hubcaps so I could sell them. And that set the tone for the next 10 years of my life. Plenty of ups and downs, always running after the next thrill, or the next high, or the next thing that I thought would give fulfillment and meaning and satisfaction to my life. Approval of peers, friends, parties, relationships, career, alcohol and drugs. But here's what I found. A sense of emptiness followed the thrills, and the consequences just seemed to get worse. For most of my 20s, I thought that using drugs recreationally was fine and I had it under control. But I tried to stop and I realized I had a problem. And so started a cycle of desperately wanting to stop, working up the courage to stop, getting some clean time, failing, a cycle of defeat that just caused me to hate myself. Things got progressively more and more out of control. By the time I was 27, I was finished, broken, and more confused than ever. I was in rehab, and it felt like my world was falling apart. At this point, I considered myself to be spiritual, but not a Christian. I was confused about religion and about God, but one thing I couldn't deny though was the supernatural experience I'd had as a child. I knew that Jesus was real, and I knew that there was something better than the current state of my life. Again, my brother invited me to his church, and I'd go and sit right at the back Sunday after Sunday. Jesus became alive to me again, and I encountered the resurrected Jesus in community. There were still plenty of ups and downs, but God slowly started to heal and restore and stir up a sense of excitement in my heart. I started reading my Bible and I joined a small group. I wanted my life to count and I didn't want to waste another day. I hit an obstacle in my newfound journey with God. Thought I'd stuffed my life up. Thought that God had once had a plan for my life, plan A, but I'd messed it up and now I had to settle for plan B, an inferior plan. But over the years, I've realized just how far from the truth that was. No life is too messed up for Him to work with. God was not caught off guard by the many bad decisions that I'd made. His patience and grace could take my mess and make something useful to Himself. In the words of John Newton, who wrote the hymn Amazing Grace, he said this: "I'm not the man I ought to be. I'm not the man I hope to one day be. But by the grace of God, I'm not the man I used to be."